here we go with video number 2. Not as if it took me long to count. So you may have seen the introduction video that I just posted yesterday. Yesterday being the 19th of September. Today's the 20th of September. So here's video number 2. Just a little follow-up of the introduction video that you might have watched, which I posted up yesterday. Nobody's seen it yet because I've no subscribers, nobody's viewed it, but that's fine. I'm hoping that I'll get at least 1 or 2 people to watch these videos because it may help people, I don't know. But the editing did work. I did manage to get the pictures up in the right places, I think. Nothing fancy, just pictures come up. During this video I will be editing this as well, just by adding some pictures in and a little description underneath with dates and times maybe, because while I'm talking here right now I won't be able to remember dates. I can't remember my own name sometimes. So I'll be doing that, and some pictures will pop up when I'm speaking about certain things. So this video, I'm going to be talking about my trip from Scotland here to the Philippines. Not in any fantastic detail, it won't be a long video, but just the process that I went through, the things the flights that I took was pretty horrendous, I've got to be honest with you, because of the way I did it, which will become clear as I go through why it was horrendous. And just my experiences. If anybody's flying a similar route, you'll know what to expect. So first of all, the process of me getting to the Philippines, and it was on the date will come up on the screen because I can't remember it now. I did look before, but it's gone already. It's about the, yeah, I can't, 26th, it was in August anyway, the end of June, 26th of June I think it was. Anyway, I left, I live in Forfar, which I said in the first video. I left Forfar here and drove my car to a friend's house just in the outskirts of Dundee, and that was about 2 o'clock in the morning. I got there, got a taxi booked for about 2:10. I left my car there. I didn't want to leave it at the airport for 4 weeks, so I got in a taxi and went to Dundee city centre in the taxi to get the bus to the airport. The bus was only £7 or something, I think, to Edinburgh Airport. So we left Dundee. There's some pictures and videos coming up. There'll be no sound on the videos, I've cut them off, but you'll be able to watch the little video of me just standing at 2 o'clock in the morning or thereabouts in the centre of Dundee and not a soul in sight waiting for the bus. So I got on the bus and arrived at Edinburgh Airport nice and early. Experience in Edinburgh Airport wasn't too bad. I was expecting a lot of problems because back then there was a lot of problems with shortage of staff, flights were getting cancelled, and my first flight was from Edinburgh to Stansted, and it was with EasyJet, and EasyJet were cancelling flights everywhere. But I think they were mostly going out the UK, the flights that they were getting cancelled. But I was a bit worried. But the flight, I never got any notification about it being cancelled, so I took the chance there and went anyway, obviously, and I got the flight to Stansted Airport down in London. Stansted was quite cool because processes were really fine. I mean, Edinburgh to Stansted, it's an internal flight, so there wasn't much in the way of security really, or having to prove that I got return tickets and things. It went quite smoothly. Got to Stansted quite smooth as well. Got my suitcase off the EasyJet flight, reclaimed my suitcase, and then booked it back in again because it was a separate flight. Once I'd booked the case in at Stansted though, that was it until I got to Manila. But in Stansted, lovely airport, massive airport, and the pictures and videos coming up of that as well, of all the shops there. I'm not a big fan of shops, but it was nice to see, and so many people, it's so busy. Then I had to get a shuttle and you'll see a quick video of that as well. I had to get a shuttle to another terminal in Stansted. That was quite an experience, that was quite good. So from Stansted I flew to Dalaman in Turkey. Now I think I've got some pictures of Dalaman which I'll put up on the screen now. In fact, no, I don't think I do, because when I got to Dalaman, there was the flight was a little bit late leaving Stansted, and I already had a very short window to get my next flight, which bizarrely enough was to Istanbul in Turkey. I'll explain why all this happened in a minute, but the flight was delayed leaving Stansted, so I didn't have a lot of time in Dalaman, so I was kind of flying about looking for my gate number, checking in my hand luggage, going through security and everything. And then the flight took off and landed in Istanbul. Now Istanbul, if you've never been there before, oh, what a fantastic airport. I'm quite a fan of airports. Not anal about it, but I'm quite a fan of airports. I love airports, I love aircraft, I love travel. But Istanbul airport, the concourse, once you go through security and you're basically in where all the gates are, instead of just walking along corridors and corridors of emptiness to get to the gate where you're going, it's all shops. So they've got their, like, duty-free shops, I would call it. Just as far as the eye can see, and I must have walked for ages to get to the gate that I needed. And it was just wonderful to see all these shops. Stuff that I don't want to buy, but that's beside the point. But lovely airport, very, very nicely run airport too. There was people going around on the, oh, what do you call them, two-wheel things? Oh, a wee two-wheel thing that they stand up and they lean forward and back. I monoed something, I can't remember, but there was people going around in there, and they were stopping occasionally and asking people if they're okay, if they need any advice, they need any help. You don't get that anywhere else. I've never seen it. There was people walking around as well, and they were there for you to ask if you got any questions, and I thought that was fantastic. Anyway, I got to the gate there. I had quite a layover there, quite an experience finding food, because I didn't know what the food was. I ended up buying this thing that looked like a sausage roll. It ended up being, what was it? It was soft fruit and something with a bit of cinnamon on it. So what I thought was a sausage roll was a fruit cake of some sort. Big long thing, just like a sausage roll that you would get here in Scotland. But it was good. It filled the gap. So then we boarded the flight from Istanbul and then flew from there to Manila. And that's where it went slightly downhill. Nothing wrong with the staff in Manila. The airport staff and the way the security were so pleasant. And oh, it was just absolutely fantastic the way you were treated, where I was treated, because obviously that's me coming into the Philippines. My next flight was a domestic flight, so I had to go through immigration. They asked me questions in immigration. They asked where I'm staying. They asked how long I'm staying for. They asked to see my return ticket. They asked to see my One Health Pass, which is that thing you need to fill in online to get into the Philippines. What else did they ask me? Oh, who I'm going to see. Always with a big smile on their face. They didn't seem to be any kind of urgency either. So I passed through immigration, and then it kind of went downhill because I didn't know I had to get to my flight from Manila to Cebu, which is an internal flight. Now I was told, or my understanding was, that it was in the same terminal, but it wasn't. I had to get it round to the other terminal. It was Terminal 3 I flew into, I think. Had to get to Terminal 2, something like that. And I'll put that up on the screen to tell you, because I can't remember the details because it was all a bit of a blur. And then I went to where I thought was the right terminal. I couldn't find the flight on the boards anywhere until I asked somebody, and they said, oh no, that's the other terminal. You need to get a taxi. I thought, oh, dear me, okay. So time was a bit limited because, and it was by this time it was quite late at night, so the last flight from Manila to Cebu was the flight that I was booked on, and I was really cutting it fine. So I got in the taxi, asked the taxi driver to take me to the terminal, and he said no problem. Very nice guy, really chatty, asking me all the questions. Where am I going, where am I staying, where have you come from? Really chatty. And then he stopped at the terminal eventually, battling through all the traffic, a horrendous amount of traffic. And I'm watching my watch all the time, and I'm thinking, oh, I've only got half an hour left. Lucky it's an internal flight, so the check-in process, I was hoping wasn't going to be too bad. So very, very nice taxi driver. Until he stopped at the terminal and he says that would be 900 pesos. And I thought, oh, I just paid it. I didn't think of arguing. He tried to show me a list to say that that's the charge at that time, and I thought, oh, fair enough. I was just so desperate to get to my plane, so I think I got fleeced a little bit there. So got into the terminal, and straight away I thought, right, I'm pushed for time, so I'm going to ask somebody. So I showed them a ticket, and they said, oh, it's, you know, to where the gate was, and they said, oh, it's over there. So not exactly ran, but I was walking very fast, and I got there, not a soul in sight, and I thought, blimey, I hope they haven't boarded the flight and I'm too late. So there was it looked like a security guy or a cleaner, janitor, that kind of thing, handyman, and he was there, the only person that I could see. So I asked him, I said, is this the gate? It was the right gate, but didn't have a letter. And he said, no, that's downstairs, the other end. I've just come from there. So I thought, oh no, I'm going to miss this flight. So back I went, all the way along the concourse. Eventually I got to the right gate, but the flight number was wrong. The flight number on my ticket, it ended in 5, and this one ended in 4. So I thought, oh, it's not the right one. So I was starting to panic again. I thought, well, if it's somewhere else, I'm going to miss the flight. I'm going to have to stay in Manila overnight. But then eventually I asked somebody, and they said, oh no, don't worry, the screen's wrong, it is 5. I thought, and then I looked around, and there's, I don't know how many, possibly around about 200 people, all waiting before me. They hadn't even started boarding because there was a half-an-hour delay on the flight. So all that panic for nothing. So I eventually boarded the flight at Manila. I landed in Cebu, funnily enough, almost on time. So he must have picked up a bit of time. He must have put it in a higher gear when he was flying. I landed in Cebu, and my suitcase, it's the first time I've flown a lot in the years, all over I was going to say all over the world, but mostly all over Europe and other places. But the first time ever, my suitcase was the first one to come off. So I picked up my suitcase, and that's when me and Clyde met. It's such a magical moment. We haven't got that on video. I know there's a lot of people, and they're in an LDR, and they meet for the first time. They've got it on video, and it's so nice to see. But unfortunately, I didn't get it on video. I was so tired by this time. That was 2 full days of travel, and I'm not going to do that again. In fact, my flight on the 1st of October, in just less than 2 weeks' time from now, I'm flying to Istanbul again, but direct from Edinburgh, and then Istanbul direct to Cebu. I'm not doing all those flights again. The only reason I did all those flights to get there was because it turned out cheaper, but that was not the main reason. But I wanted to go on that particular day, or get there on that particular day. So that was the only flights that I could get. But it was okay, but it was a long 2 days, and practically no sleep for 2 days. But I was so excited when I got there, obviously I didn't even feel tired. So I arrived at Cebu. Clyde was there to meet me at the airport, and we jumped into a taxi and went straight to the hotel. We stayed in Cebu overnight, the first night. In fact, the first couple of nights we stayed in Cebu. And that was in the, what was the name of the hotel? The Bayfront, yeah, the Bayfront Hotel. I think. Yeah. Yeah, the Bayfront Hotel in Cebu is in the South Reclamation area, I think it was. Was it north or south? South, I think. It's just across the river, across the bridge from the airport, where the airport is. The next day we picked up the hired car. I hired a car for 4 weeks, and a terrific experience there as well. The guys were so helpful. It was a nice car. It was in clean condition. I had a good look around it. A little bit complication of trying to pay by credit card, but that was sorted. I managed to do it, but I paid one of their associate companies. I had to go with them in the car to go and. I didn't have that kind of cash on me. I thought, if you're hiring a car, surely they'll take a credit card. But that was sorted out reasonably quickly. It was a little bit of a hassle, but wasn't too bad. So then the fun began because then I experienced driving in the Philippines. Now I'll maybe make another video on these independent issues, or not issues, but independent things about the Philippines. But first of all, I'll talk just briefly about some of the things that I noticed first of all, and my first experience, as it were, on arriving in the Philippines. I think the first thing I can say, even before I got into the wheel or behind the wheel of the hired car, was the traffic. The traffic in Cebu City, and I believe it's worse in Manila, was horrendous because there doesn't seem to be any rules of the road. Everybody drives on the right hand side, but apart from that they tend to just go wherever they want to go. Now that is not a complaint whatsoever, because that's the way they drive. So as a foreigner going into another country, then you've got to, this is the way I feel, you've got to adapt to their way. Because if you don't, you'll go mad, you'll go crazy. So you have to sort of adapt yourself to their way of driving. What they do is normal. What we do back here is not normal there. So you've got to fall into their pattern. And you come to a junction, and if there's no traffic lights on it, then you just keep poking your nose out until somebody stops. You get used to that very, very quickly. Also, the amount of people, and in the city, not so much in the way of animals, but people just walking in front of you. Motorbikes, oh dear, motorbikes and sidecars, what they call tricycles there, all over the place. Jeepneys, and they don't take any prisoners. So none of that is a problem if you accept the way it is, but you have to keep your wits about you. You've got to be very careful. So the traffic system in the cities anyway is something you've got to be really, you've got to have a lot of confidence to drive there. It is possible. Just take your time. Don't try and rush things. Stay at the same pace as they are. Watch what they do, and you wouldn't have a problem. When you get into we drove from Cebu down south towards Karkar before we cut off over to the other side of the island. So all the way down to Karkar, it was built up area, and you're up on the motorway, the interstate as they call it, and that's good. That's okay. Still got to be careful of the traffic because they tend to go everywhere, and lanes don't really mean anything in the Philippines. So, people will come whizzing past you on both sides. So you've got to keep your wits about you to stay safe. But then when you get into the country, it changes slightly because you're now on a single track, well, a single lane each way, mostly, when you're out in the province, or the countryside as we would call it. And that is a different story completely, because then you've got to not only look after the same vehicles or look out for the same vehicles, you've also got dogs running about, and they can sometimes lying in the middle of the road enjoying the sun, and you've got to maneuver your way around them very carefully. Most of them get out the way. The occasional chicken, and lots of kids, and I mean young kids, 4, 5, 6-year-old at the roadside. And you don't know if they're going to walk in front of you or not. and that's difficult to deal with, difficult to get used to. They are very road wise, and even at that young age, they know not to go too near the road. They know not to walk out, but there's always the chance, so it's something you've got to be very careful of. And then a windy, twisty road all the way across to the other side of the island. Again, that was only brief, but when I'm there in October, I'll film some of this so you can see that, and you can see it in the city and in the province and what the differences are and the different things that you have to look out for. A lot of people warn me about the heat. When I got there, it was at night time, and yes, it was hot, but it wasn't particularly humid. I was warned about the humidity, and it didn't seem that bad to me. I expected to be a bit short of breath, but it was fine. The next day, during the day, yes, you walk out into the sun, you've no protection on. The sun is hot, but it was, to me, it was manageable, quite easy. Yes, it was hot. If you stood still for too long, you would burn and you'd fry like a piece of bacon. But yeah, I didn't find the heat to be a major problem. I like the heat anyway, and I didn't find it too humid at all. The people in the Philippines, my first impressions, I mean, I'd studied a lot of YouTubers and a lot of videos about the Philippines before I went, so I kind of had an idea what the people were like, but when you experience it yourself, it kind of confirms everything you've heard, and they are really nice. They're so pleasant. The little kids will wave at you, you know. I mean, here's me, a white man, white hair. I'm just about 6 foot tall, so I stick out like a sore thumb over there. And you know, you can see the kids going as you're walking past, and because you're a white man with white hair as well, which is very rare over there. So yeah, but they're so nice, they're so pleasant. They've always got a smile, they've always got a hello or thank you. They're so polite. So that's the people. Everybody that I came up against, or I encountered, and all the time I was in the Philippines, nothing but praise for them all. And all the time I was there and moving around in the cities and in the province, I never ever saw any anger. Even on the roads where it's total, well, I think it looks total chaos, it's not to them, it's normal. To us foreigners going over there, and particularly when we're driving for the first time, it is chaos. But it's their chaos. But you never see any anger. Yes, there's horns being tooted most of the time, but that is to say, you know, look, I'm coming past you. Be careful. It's not get out the way, you so-and-so, like we do here. I often think that some people that annoy you on the roads here, what they should do is go to the Philippines and drive for 2 weeks and then come back. And I think they would appreciate the way we drive a little bit more. I think they would appreciate the benefit of having rules on the road and the Road Traffic Act that we have to deal with, because without it, yeah, it's a bit of chaos. Anyway, that's about it for this video. I'm not sure what the next video will be. I tried to take a video while I was at work today, but it was, circumstances just didn't allow that. I was doing a bit of driving for a company today when I'm not running my own business, because it's not that busy at the moment. Well, that wasn't very good. A little bit driving for some reason. I'm going to have to look at that, because the sectors on my camera must be wrong, and because it just suddenly cut off mid-sentence. What was I saying? Yeah, can't remember. Yeah, I was driving, delivery driving for a local company. So I'll try and take a video of that, but it does involve visiting farms, and I'll tell you more about that next time I do. But I'll try it over the next couple of days, and I'll try and put out a video every day explaining a little bit more in detail about the events of my travels going to the Philippines. I stayed there for 4 weeks in July. Oh, okay. So I'll keep you updated. The next video I'll probably mention a little bit more about the house we're building in the Philippines and a bit more about the life and things that we did while while I was there in July. Okay, so thanks for watching. I know that bloggers say this, or vloggers say this all the time, please remember and subscribe. But that is a good way that you can be notified if I add any more videos in the future that you might want to watch. That's if I don't bore you silly. Okay, so thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.